Have you ever felt like nobody truly understands you? You explain yourself, but somehow they still don't get it. You try harder, you give more details, and somehow the distance gets bigger. If this sounds familiar, there may be a deeper reason. It might not be because you're difficult to understand. You may have simply learned to hide too much of yourself. Maybe you learned this when you were young. Maybe you were told to stop being so sensitive. Maybe your feelings were ignored. So you learned to keep things to yourself. You stopped asking for help. You stopped explaining what hurt. Eventually, silence started feeling safer. And that's where the problem begins. Because people can't understand what you never show them. And the more you hide, the more alone you can feel. But hiding your emotions doesn't make them disappear. They just come out in different ways. Maybe you overthink every conversation. You replay what they said. You analyze their tone. You wonder if their mood was about you. And sometimes you convince yourself it was. That's called personalization. You make everything about you, even when it isn't. Another reason you may feel misunderstood is that you expect people to know what you need without actually saying it. You think if they really cared, they'd know. But that's not how people work. People aren't mind readers. They can care deeply about you and still completely miss what you need. That's why clear communication matters. Don't make people guess your feelings. Give them a chance to understand you. But there's another pattern that makes people feel misunderstood. You might be showing people only the version of yourself you think they'll accept. You hide your anger. You hide your sadness. You even hide what you actually want. Then you feel hurt when people don't respond to needs you never expressed. That's a painful cycle. You hide, they don't know. You feel ignored. Then you hide even more, and the cycle repeats. The solution isn't becoming more emotional. It's becoming more honest. Not brutally honest. Not oversharing everything. Just clear. For example, instead of saying, "You're acting weird," you could say, "I feel like something is different between us." One attacks, the other opens a conversation. And that difference can completely change a conversation. There's also something else people often confuse with being misunderstood. Sometimes people don't misunderstand you. They simply see things differently. And that's okay. You don't need everyone to think like you. You just need to feel safe enough to be yourself. And that starts with accepting yourself. You don't have to perfectly explain every part of who you are. Some parts can simply take time to understand. Trust is built through repetition. You speak honestly, they listen. You listen back. And slowly, both people learn each other. That's what real understanding looks like. Not someone magically knowing everything about you, but two people being willing to learn. And that's something you can choose. You can choose to stop hiding. You can choose to say what you actually feel, even when it feels uncomfortable. You can say, "That hurt me." You can say, "I need some space." You can say, "I need reassurance." You don't have to pretend you're fine, just to make everyone else comfortable. Because pretending creates distance too. People connect with what's real, not with a perfect version of you. There's another important lesson here. Being understood is not entirely your responsibility. You can communicate clearly, and someone can still choose not to understand. And that's not always your failure. Sometimes the other person simply isn't willing. That's when you stop explaining yourself endlessly. You say what you need to say, then you let their response belong to them. Because you can control your honesty. You can't control how someone receives it. The goal isn't to make everyone understand you. It's finding the people who actually want to, people who listen, people who ask questions, people who don't judge your feelings, and people who make you feel safe enough to be honest. Those relationships are worth protecting. And the relationships where you constantly feel misunderstood may be telling you something too. Not every relationship is meant to be understood. Some are meant to be left behind. So if you've been feeling misunderstood lately, don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. Pause. Ask yourself what you're actually feeling. Then, ask yourself what you need. Then, ask yourself if you've actually communicated it. If not, start there. Say the thing you normally keep inside. Not perfectly, just honestly. And pay attention to what happens next. Do they listen? Do they dismiss you? Do they try to understand? Or do they make you feel guilty for having feelings? That response tells you something, because understanding is a two-way street. You can meet people halfway, but you shouldn't have to walk the entire distance alone. If you're always the one explaining, apologizing, and trying to be understood, that's not connection. That's exhaustion. Real connection shouldn't leave you constantly questioning your worth. It should give you room to breathe, room to speak, room to disagree, and room to be human. So stop measuring your value by how well someone understands you. Your value doesn't become smaller because someone failed to see it. Sometimes the right people won't need endless explanations. They'll listen, ask, and meet you halfway. And when you finally find that kind of connection, you won't feel like you have to prove who you are. You'll finally feel free to be yourself.